I'm Paul Llewellyn, and welcome to Rainmakers, where we share the stories of those making a difference in their communities. On today's show, we are joined by Pastor Hong. Before stepping into his current role as youth director, Pastor Hong served as the pastor of the Toronto Korean SDA Church, where he led Bread for Bread Ministries, a grassroots outreach initiative dedicated to serving the vulnerable at Jane and Finch, one of Toronto's historically challenging neighborhoods. Today, we'll explore his journey, the impact of his ministry, and what it means to serve with compassion in difficult places. Pastor Hong, welcome to Rainmakers.
Thank you. Thank you.
To begin with, you and I have had similar journeys. Not at the same time, but we both pastored the Toronto Korean Seventh-day Adventist Church, and you had a ministry at Jane and Finch. I grew up a block away. So for about 20 years, I lived in the Jane Finch corridor, and you had a ministry going on there.
That's right.
Can you tell me a little bit about your ministry and what led you to serve as the Associate Youth Director for the Ontario Conference?
Well, definitely, I started my ministry at Toronto Korean SDA Church as English ministry there. Um, I'm always involved with young people. I definitely have a great passion for them, helping them to experience, who God is and to help them explore different areas of faith. And so through that, I've worked with a lot of young people for many years. Moved on to Emmanuel SDA Church as associate director, associate pastor there, and work with the young people again, youth and young adult. And I think that kind of passion really spoke my journey, and here I am as associate youth director working with young people.
Fantastic, fantastic. What inspired you to start Bread for Bread ministry?
So it was a Korean church,
Mhm.
and we had quite a bit of young people in our Korean church. But one of the issue that I experienced was because it's an ethnic church, um, our young people were a little bit stuck in their own kind of culture and the world.
Mm.
And I wanted to make sure they experience something outside of their walls of church. And I definitely believe a lot in outreach initiatives, connecting with community. And so I said, you know what, we are gonna go out and do something. And then thankfully around that time, I got connected with a supplier who was giving out bread, a bakery that was kind of giving out bread for free. And so, let's go and let's give out bread. And also at the same time, I used to be a literature evangelist, right? And so I did co-authoring, and I believe in the literature. And I thought it would be a great way to bring literatures to give out while we're handing out the bread. And so that kind of became a bread for bread, which was bread for physical bread, and for spiritual bread, which is the literatures that we were handing out at Jane and Finch.
Wow, wow. You know, Jane and Finch has been known as a challenging area in Toronto, and I know that from experience.
Yes.
Why did you choose that specific location for ministry?
First of all, I think that was one of our closest interaction, one of the major interactions that we could actually be at. We were at Cheswood and Shepherd area. So, we had the option of a Keele kind of street, but there isn't too much foot traffic on Keele street. So we're like looking at Jane and says, you know what, they need a lot of help there. And it's just a block away. And so that's how kind of we chose, knowing what kind of situation the Jane and Finch is known for. And also I just studying the community there, I knew there were quite a bit of homeless people there as well. So it was the closest area where we can actually physically be able to help.
Wow, excellent. Can you walk us through what a typical day in Bread for Bread ministry? What did the outreach look like when you went to Jane and Finch?
Well, actually starts before we get to Jane and Finch, because we are creating a line of factory workers at the church. I have bags of big breads there, and we're putting into small bags, right? And so we just got all our youth come together and start putting bread into smaller bags, other items in the bags. So we put it into bags and we just kind of carry them into Jane and Finch. Once we kind of park at a parking lot there, we did it at a street corner. There's some kind of like actually a good open area where we could use in the sidewalk. And so we put out tables out there. We made like 4 or 5 different signs of bread for bread or free bread. Come and get something free. So everybody likes free.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of focusing on giving out bread, but our main focus was to give out literatures, right? And so as they come, we have 30, 40 of our young people, kind of standing in one corner, but our tables was one corner, but they would carry bread across the street. So we were covered like whole 4 corners of the area, even behind some of the businesses where some of the homeless people were, with just taking our bread there. And of course, they have stack of, whether it's glow tracts, whether it's magazines, whether it's books, Steps to Christ, Desire of Ages, Great Controversy, whatever we had available, and they were just handing out. So we simply walk up to people, hey, would you like some free bread? They go like, sure, right? Oh, by the way, here's something for you to read. It was a very simple approach. And if they say, oh, I don't need bread, then hey, we have something for you to read. Would you still want to take them? And so it really was a simple interaction in providing both a physical need and hopefully the spiritual need through the literatures.
Great, great. How did the community respond when your team first coming there? Were they cold? Were they warm? Were they, responsive? How did they respond to you?
So in the beginning, of course, people are skeptical. Like, who are you? What are you giving out? They weren't really warm per se. Although, of course, anything free works. So within an hour or so, everything's gone, right? And so we would hand out good like 150, 200 bags, and that's
Wow.
the literature
Yes.
goes out as well. Of course, after a while, people knew we were coming because we were there every third Sabbath afternoon at 3 o'clock. And we would be faithful. Like, it doesn't matter, rain or shine, snow, it doesn't matter what it is. We're there because we realized people were waiting for us. And so we were out there faithfully.
Excellent, excellent. So after you were well fed at the church, all the young people came over and they fed other people.
That's right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Were there any particular moments or encounters that deeply moved or changed your perspective?
Jane and Finch is an
Mhm.
interesting corner. We've encountered many different type of not only just people but religious groups.
Yeah.
While we were handing out the bread, there were some other people screaming and preaching about other things that are sometimes really on the edges of
Wow.
the things, right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And there are people who are so thankful that you are there. One particular situation, this guy came to us. I'm like, this is amazing what you guys are doing. I am so interested in the Bible. Like, I want to study, and so, yeah, we ended up kind of like spending some time to do Bible studies and things. And I realized how much people are actually looking for a spiritual food, and they're hungry and thirsty for something meaningful in their life. Yeah.
Is there one story that stands out as this is why we're here? This is why we're doing that ministry.
Yeah, I definitely, like, when this guy came up to us and like, you know what, we need to, I want to learn more about what you guys are doing. I want to learn more about what you guys are teaching. I want to understand this God, this Jesus. I mean, that's really what it is, the reason why we're out there.
Right.
Because we are not just giving them food physically, but we want to introduce Jesus. Right, and whatever means possible, because some of these people may not have any place they can go and talk about their struggle or talk about their desire to learn, and they don't even know where to start sometimes. So this was a moment where, the reason we're out here is to introduce Jesus. And encounters like that, when they come and they said, you know what, I love what you guys are doing. I've been watching you guys, but I want to learn more about who Jesus is. And those are powerful moments, I would say.
Yeah. How else did you see the power of simple acts like offering food and prayer impact the lives on the street?
Um, Honestly, I have to say, because our encounters are not long, it's not lengthy. Of course, some people do stop and talk to us, and we would have a lengthy conversation. Sometimes they would dump their, kind problems, situation, whatever they're going through. We kind of become a counselors in a way sometimes, a spiritual counselors. But that's actually what I saw the most is the ministry of presence. Like we are available,
Yeah.
and we're consistent, and that creates a kind of a community where they know that they're gonna see us at this time, at this
Right.
place, consistently, right?
Mm.
And so if they have anything that they do want to engage us with, we are available.
Yeah.
And I think this availability is very important in witnessing,
Yeah.
because without being available, we'll never be able to actually have a chance
Right.
to have that conversations.
Fantastic. I love to hear you talk about this. It's so encouraging. Were there any safety concerns that you and your team, given the reputation that Jane and Finch had? And I have to say that, I grew up a block away, so I was part of that corridor. We were on the news an awful lot. But how did you navigate some of the safety concerns?
Well, first of all, nobody was alone,
Okay.
right? We were definitely in a groups. Even if they are talking to people on the street, they're definitely in a group of actually more than two, like
Yeah.
3 or 4 people. But at a certain point, because we were out there long enough, they knew us,
Right.
right? These people kind of recognize who we are. And of course, we didn't go too far out from the four corner area. So we were engaged mainly in a very open space. So it was very, very, actually very safe. There was no harassment that we had to deal with. There was no any mean behaviors
Yeah.
that we were coming across at all. So in fact, Jane and Finch people are super nice and they're super kind.
Fantastic.
And so, unlike the certain reputation it hold, the experience we had
Yeah.
was phenomenal.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. What is the spiritual significance of giving away bread as opposed to giving away other food?
I think bread for us at that time we were getting a free bread.
Yeah.
So sure it could be other things,
Yeah.
right? But I was getting the free bread.
Yeah.
So might as well let's do bread.
Hmm.
And of course we were giving out literatures, and that was the really the intention from the very beginning.
Hmm.
And we could have chosen the water and the literature.
Yeah.
We could have chosen hot chocolate and the literature, but we had bread.
Yeah.
And the term, the bread for bread, literally, really, it made
Hmm.
sense because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started with bread. For many years, we were able to get those free bread, and
Wonderful.
there were really good, great supply of that.
I just love the analogy that, here you're giving out bread, which you're basically giving out Jesus, the
That's
bread of
right.
life.
Bread of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did bread for bread influence your own faith and understanding of service?
One other thing that I strongly learned from that ministry is, again, I said, a ministry of presence.
Hmm.
I think sometimes we don't even recognize what our presence does.
Yeah.
We don't have to go and, you know, shake people and say, believe in Jesus. Um, our availability and letting them know that I'm here
Mm.
for you
Yeah.
and whatever it is that you're going through is it maybe speaks bigger volume than anything else. The consistency, I learned that ministry, when it's consistent, it's gonna create an impact.
Mm.
Right? And so ministry of presence and ministry of consistency is something that I've I've learned so deeply through this ministry.
Yeah.
And it translates to our youth ministry too, because our young people, um, programs one time here and there could do a small impact,
Hmm.
but real impacts, they come when you're always there,
Right.
when you're always present, and when you're available. And then they come to you, and the real conversations happen, the real relationships built, and the impact is way more lasting than just an event.
Yeah. How did the ministry impact the young volunteers, the members from your church? What impact did it have on them?
Honestly, earlier you asked about what impact do we do to the community.
Yeah.
Honestly, my answer is there's actually bigger impact from
Mm.
my young people
Wow.
than the
Yes.
community,
Yes.
right? Because I don't know, I pray that they read those literatures. I pray that they'll, Holy Spirit guide their, situation so that they can dig in, right?
Hmm.
Our job is to introduce. It's a, we leave it up to Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit,
Hmm.
now the literature is in their hand. It's your job
Yes. Yeah.
to have them read and to convict. That's not our job.
Yeah.
But through the ministry, our young people were being impacted. They were impacted enough where they believe they should be out there, whether it's cold or rainy or snowy. They want to
Mm.
go out and share this love, and that I would say that it really impacted them, because they saw the changes not only in the community but in their own lives by
Right.
giving, by being able to give. And one of the other things is it wasn't just Korean church, in fact, actually.
Hmm.
This became a ministry for a whole region. So, it was Downsview Church, Slavic Church, Yugoslavian Church, Filipino churches,
Mm.
Emmanuel, like every church in North York area, Spanish church, I contacted them like, come
Nice.
join in this,
Nice. Yeah.
ministry together. And so not only Korean church members, but all the other church members start to come out,
Yeah.
right? And they were able to mingle, and they were able to meet each other. And our young people were able to, realize, hey, there are other Adventist kids just like me
Yeah.
who are at other churches, and we were breaking barriers,
Hmm.
right? They were meeting other members, making friends, and so yes, it was amazing
Yeah.
impact. There were days where we would have like three churches out there. We have 60 kids hovering over the whole,
Hmm.
Jane and Finch,
Wow.
right? And
Yeah.
just
What an
kind of
impact.
giving out, yeah, literatures, and they weren't afraid to talk to these people because there's so many of us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that was just really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a quote about Jesus that his methods really work, and Jesus learned to mingle, and it sounds like that's
Oh,
what you guys were doing,
yes.
hardcore mingling with people around the Jane and
That's
Finch.
right. Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a question about you now.
Mhm.
What lessons from Bread to Bread have you carried into your current role as Associate Youth Director for the Ontario Conference?
Of course, the biggest aspects is that we got to share.
Yeah.
We have to share what we have.
Mm.
Um, Very often in our church settings, um, we like to sit and listen.
Hmm.
And I call it a pew potatoes.
Pew potatoes. Good. Yes.
We're spiritually fed
Yeah.
and we sit and enjoy, but we don't go out and exercise
Wow.
enough.
Yeah.
And thus we become little chubby pew potatoes spiritually,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I'm always saying, let's go exercise by giving out what we've received.
Yeah.
Right. And so giving back to the people, and not only that, creating a community. And of course, the consistency, ministry of presence. I
Hmm.
think these are my, ministry themes throughout, even in our youth ministry.
Yeah.
I definitely heavily focus on building community
Yeah.
that we'll be able to share our lives.
Hmm.
That is a big thing. Honestly, something that I do wanna move away from. So as much as it's a must, but it's a program driven.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we become program driven people.
Mhm.
but we need to become a relationship driven people,
Ah, yeah.
right? We
Yes.
are an Adventist. We are supposed to be an Adventist where we are people who's waiting for Jesus, but we became an eventist
Mm.
of people who's waiting for an event,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so let's not forget the best way for us to evangelize is through build relationships.
Yeah.
And by building relationships, naturally we'll be able to share our love, what we have, our testimonies. And these become a real moment,
Hmm.
right? And so I think that the ministry of giving, ministry of being available, ministry of being
Hmm.
presence, ministry of being consistent, I think these are the principles that I continue to implement in the youth ministry.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you another question. How can faith communities today be more involved in serving their local neighborhoods in meaningful ways?
I think we've talked about kind of enough in settings like the methodology,
Hmm.
and I think we need to be creative. Um, Bread for bread was something that was available.
Yeah.
Maybe your church, a local church setting, they will just sometimes have to use whatever that's available for them,
Hmm.
but don't create into a program, and it's not an event.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we focus in building relationship
Right.
because me out like as a church, you're out there in the community, like as on one-time event,
Mm.
and you're feeding homeless people. Sure, that's a great, better than not doing anything.
Hmm.
But what does it really accomplish by doing that? So you have to think, how can we build relationship so that they can come to you when
Right.
they have a question, when they actually have a need, when they are curious about Jesus.
Hmm.
Like you have to make yourself available, but if without building a relationship, it's really not gonna work. And so I think there's a lot of homework actually to
Hmm.
be done. You gotta study your neighborhood. What do they need? Maybe it could be some type of tutor program. Maybe it could be focused on families. It could be focused on single mothers. I don't know, whatever that is.
Right.
Maybe it has to do with education. Maybe it has to do with providing physical need, a
Hmm.
skill set, whatever it is. Something that can you can do consistently and that you can build relationship with. I think that is really key focus in doing how to impact a community, how to be involved in a community.
So if you could talk to a person out there that's wondering what good am I doing here on this earth, what would you give to advice to a 17-year-old young person that just needs to get involved? What would you tell them?
Passion is something that God has given to you.
Hmm.
It's I don't know if we could talk about story of no Jonah. Jonah was called by God, but he ran away.
Hmm.
He said, "I don't want to do it. I'd rather commit suicide than jump into the water and to receive your call." But it's interesting because when Jonah when came out of the belly of the fish, stand on the solid ground, God calls him again and go. He doesn't change the call.
Right.
If God calls you and gives you a passion to serve, do whatever it takes, but be active. Because if we just sit around until an opportunity comes, that opportunity may never come around. But we need to create opportunity.
Mm.
We need to be active in thinking, how can I impact this community? Maybe talking to more people and finding, two, three more people that shares those passion with you. That becomes a movement.
Mm.
And through that group, you create how can we impact? What can I do to serve the community? And honestly, there are many opportunities that's out there. Don't wait for an opportunity. Create an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that's the best advice that I can give is step out in faith. and let God do the wonder.
And I think you mentioned an important point there. You don't have to do it alone.
That's right.
Take somebody else. There's safety, and it's easier when you have somebody there beside you doing it. Pastor Hong, thank you so much for having such an incredible interview for the history of Bread for Bread Ministries, and what you're doing in the Ontario Conference as Associate Youth Director as you're reaching young people and getting young people involved. So thank you for being here and for this interview on Rainmakers. I really
Amen.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and invitation.
Have you been moved by this impactful story and feel inspired to help us continue bringing these impactful moments to life? Your support is essential for us to keep showcasing the volunteers making a difference. If you'd like to contribute to the production of Hope Channel Canada and its ministries, it's simple. Visit agentsofhope.ca, where you'll find various ways to donate: debit, credit, Google Pay, Apple Pay, or send an e-transfer to Agents of Hope at hopetv.ca. Prefer mailing a check? Send it to Hope Channel at 1148 King Street East, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H1H8. For a more personal connection, call us at 1-855-4-HOPE-TV. That's 1-855-446-7388. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hope Channel Canada, and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. You can also watch the show on multiple platforms: hopetv.ca, cable TV, the Roku app, and the Hope Channel app. Are you looking for answers to life's most profound questions? Hope Study provides free online Bible courses that cover essential topics, all at your own pace and from the comfort of your own home. One of our enriching courses, The Unlimited Power of Prayer, invites you to discover the remarkable world of prayer. Here, talking with God is not a boring routine, but a sincere conversation with the source of love and wisdom. This study will deepen your understanding of prayer's transformative power and help you build a stronger connection with God. Signing up is easy and completely free at hopestudy.ca. Begin your journey today and feel free to share this valuable resource with anyone else seeking answers. Uncover life's answers. Visit hopestudy.ca and begin your journey today.